Welcome to Being at Home with George. And I'd like to start this session as we normally do, which is to create this possibility of embracing whatever comes up and generating the hope. So, this idea of both embracing and generating the hope. Today, I'd like to talk about this phrase that's been extremely helpful for me. And and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And this has been really helpful for me in terms of being able to just say yes to whatever's happening, embrace it, and then generating the hope, which means what's the lesson here? How can I learn from it? Because if I don't know which way true north is, we're going to be lost. And if we're lost, we're going to be frustrated, aggravated, and angry. Versus if we know which way is north and we know that we're off track and we get back on track, when we get there, we're going to experience some peace, some freedom from worry and anxiety, anger, frustration. So this is a huge concept, this idea, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free, especially if we can create space between stimulus and response. And in that space, we can choose the truth. And so for me, how do you do that? Well, how I do it and how I share about doing it is what I call the 4 A's. So it's awareness, acceptance, action or compassionate action, and assessment, or actually reflecting. And we know that true understanding comes from reflecting on experience. And we know that the unexamined life is not worth living. So that fourth one, the assessment or pausing and reflecting, is really important. And so when I think about awareness, it's just this simple idea of like a mirror mind. Some people talk about mindfulness and this ability to just observe the raw data, just let things speak to you in its own language, the reflection. So we really have a clear view of what the subject or the object that we're talking about is. And the second A is the acceptance. And that's the challenging part. Why? Because that means we have to embrace whatever comes up and generate the hope. That's where the challenging work is the acceptance of it. So once we get a clear view, we have the awareness and we accept it. Yes, this is what's happening. Then we can come with the compassionate action, especially when we're not reacting, we're responding between stimulus and response. And then we can choose based on our core values and according to what our aim or what our goal is. And so our goal is to be free, happy, joyous, and free, or to just have an ease. Then that's important to understand that. So the compassionate action comes from acceptance. And then the compassionate action is to do something that is grounded in understanding, grounded in kindness, grounded in love, grounded in empathy, especially this idea of getting beyond the illusion of separateness, that we understand we're all together so that we can engage in compassionate action. And then once again, the assessment piece, which is just the pause and reflect, to think about, okay, what worked, what didn't work, how might I do that better? Or I did a really good job of not reacting when that would be my normal way of being, or that would be reasonable for some people to react to things. And so I'd like to talk about my trip. So I went to Atlanta to work with a client on Monday. And so Monday, I had an 8:20 flight. And so I get picked up 2 hours before, especially that early in the morning. So I got to the airport really early. And the first thing I discovered was that I didn't have my TSA pre-check, which I paid for and I normally get. But for some reason with this particular airline, I haven't been getting it on the last 4 legs. And I have a lot of stuff. So it means it takes you longer to get through security. And of course, I'm traveling with my CPAP because I have sleep apnea and I have a backpack. I'm only going for 2 days, so I have a little rollaway bag. And so when you go through there, and this is what I like about being pre-screened, I don't have to take off my shoes. I'm not 75 or 12, so I don't qualify for not having to take my shoes off. So I put my stuff on a conveyor belt. So I have my CPAP in one tray. I have my laptop and iPad in another tray. I have my shoes, my coat in another tray. And then I have my CPAP, backpack, and suitcase. And so they go through and they get highlighted for more screening. So they go off to the side and they have to go in and inspect it. And so in that process, I got through the gate pretty easily. In that process, it took something like 40 minutes, 45 minutes. And it was interesting because there was a tendency as I was waiting and it was taking a long time and there was only one person there. the tendency is when that's happening to say things like, this is taking forever. What's going on? How come they don't have more people on or whatever? But for whatever reason, I was able to just be quiet and just notice things and not necessarily say anything to anybody or not have the negative self-talk. But I was thinking, well, this is taking a minute. It's taking some time. And so the awareness of what was happening, and the reason there was patience there, because there was an acceptance, like, this is what's happening. And as I was standing there, I was talking to the one gentleman. There was only one person there. And he said that in the last 24 hours, 25 employees, TSA employees, had come down with the virus. So they weren't available. And so, like I said, accepting it, and then the compassionate action of just being patient and just doing what I had to do to get through there. And so just being able to see it, embrace it, or accept it, say, yeah, I don't like this, but this is what it is, and not reacting to word, thought, or deed, thinking about it. I might think about it a little bit, but I didn't say anything to anybody, and I didn't act or get puffy. My demeanor was still calm, and that was the compassionate action, was to be kind, be loving, and be understanding, and say, okay, this is what's happening, so let's deal with it. Let's create space. And then the assessment, as I think about it now, and the takeaway is the idea that I didn't embarrass myself or feel guilty because I'm yelling at this guy for being so slow, when in actuality, there's a skeleton crew, and he was very calm considering that he wasn't getting much help. And so there's something about knowing what true north is, and then making the choice to not react, and making the choice to respond with compassion for ourselves and the other people. And sometimes that's just not saying anything and just being quiet and just breathing. And that's important. So the takeaway is that we can do that, that there's a lot of situations where true north is just accepting things as they are, being aware of them, accepting them. Compassionate action is to respond in that space between stimulus and response in a way that we feel good about, and it's in alignment with understanding, just really seeing things and not taking sides. And so when I think about this, when I watch a sporting event, or if my team is playing and they lose the game, the awareness is they lose the game. The acceptance part is, listen, there's rules of the game. They lost the game. I'm upset about it. I'm angry. And the compassionate action is just to notice. And this is interesting because coming from Boston, and Celtics used to win a lot. And a lot of teams used to think they were better than the Celtics, and the Celtics would win. And Bill Russell would say, the best team always wins. And there might be some people that might challenge that. But if you score more points, you win. That's just the way the game is. And you don't have to like it. But the compassionate action is really to accept it and to learn from it and keep it moving. So I would hate to see, if I had a daughter, or actually I worked with student athletes, if my team was playing in the NCAA championship series and they won the game 4-3, the seventh game, and they won, and people would not acknowledge their victory and say they can interpret it, or you cheated, or it doesn't really matter. I can interpret what the truth is. No. And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. So just knowing, yeah, it hurts, but you lost, or your team won. And the idea is to be aware of that, accept it. Compassionate action is to congratulate them. And then the assessment is, okay, how can we do better? And how can we improve, and not try to change the outcome of the game by me having this idea that I can make the truth up. No, the truth is the truth.